What if everything you thought you knew about Meghan Markle's rise to fame was a lie? What if there was a night, a single night, captured on secret cameras, that could rewrite her entire narrative? A night in Cannes, France, during the glittering festival of lights, luxury, and fame, that few could have imagined would leave a trail of scandal so deep it would later draw the attention of MI6, the very agency tasked with protecting the British crown. Imagine flashing cameras, champagne glasses, whispered conversations behind velvet ropes, and the hidden shadows of powerful men whose names alone could ignite headlines. And in the center of it all, Meghan Markle, poised, elegant, smiling for the world, while behind the scenes, secrets were being recorded that no one in her circle ever wanted revealed. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. It begins in May 2016. The French Riviera is alive with the hum of helicopters, the clink of champagne flutes, and the swish of designer gowns. Cannes is not just a film festival, it is a theater of power. Every celebrity arrival is orchestrated like a chess move. Every handshake could carry leverage, every smile could mask ambition. And on this particular night, one camera, hidden, silent, unassuming, captured interactions that, years later, would shock the world. You might ask, why would MI6 care about a Hollywood actress attending a festival? Why would they monitor, record, and secure footage that, at first glance, seems purely entertainment? The answer is simpler and darker than you might think. Connections, influences, hidden agendas, power plays that stretch far beyond the red carpet. The story you are about to hear isn't speculation, rumor, or gossip recycled from tabloids. It comes from sources familiar with intelligence operations, insiders close to the royals, and eyewitness accounts from the festival itself. It is a story of ambition, secrecy, and a level of calculated strategy that reads more like a spy thriller than celebrity reporting. And it all starts with one alleged encounter between Meghan Markle and Harvey Weinstein. An encounter that, according to MI6, was captured on film months before her engagement to Prince Harry. Picture it, a private party in Cannes, held at an exclusive villa that few knew existed. Outside, the Mediterranean sparkles under a crescent moon. Inside, the air is thick with perfume, cigars, and the low hum of influential conversations. Weinstein, at the height of his power, is there. Everyone who is anyone in Hollywood has either an invitation or a rumor of one. Meghan arrives, poised, every inch the actress whose career is quietly ascending, but whose name has not yet reached the stratosphere of royal circles. No one in the public eye suspects that this night would later be scrutinized by one of the most secretive intelligence agencies in the world. Cameras in hidden corners record subtle interactions, whispered words, glances, gestures. Every moment, every move, is cataloged, time-stamped, and analyzed. Why did this night matter so much? On the surface, it seemed innocuous, an actress mingling with a powerful producer, sipping champagne, laughing at jokes, navigating the social minefield of Hollywood. But MI6's concern wasn't about Hollywood gossip, it was about leverage, influence, the potential for secrets to be exploited, information to be weaponized. In intelligence terms, connections like these are never benign. They are vectors, channels through which people rise or fall. And Meghan Markle's rise, as we now know, was extraordinary. But the question that MI6 allegedly sought to answer is chilling. How much of that rise was shaped by clandestine interactions that would remain hidden from the public eye until now? Think about it for a moment. How much do we really know about the people who surround global figures before they step into the spotlight? We see the glitz, the red carpets, the magazine covers. We see smiles frozen in photographs. But beneath that curated veneer lies a network of influence, secrecy, and often, manipulation. Intelligence agencies know this. They track it. They catalog it. And when a royal marriage is on the horizon, when the public adores a couple whose image is being carefully constructed, any shadow of scandal becomes a potential threat, not just to individuals, but to institutions. By the time Meghan Markle and Prince Harry's engagement was publicly announced, whispers of this night and Cannes were already floating through the corridors of power. Not in tabloids, not in public newspapers, but in secure communications, encrypted messages, and confidential intelligence briefings. The footage captured by MI6 was never meant for the public eye. It was meant to be a record, a dossier, a safeguard. But now, according to the sources, pieces of it have surfaced or been intentionally released, and the implications are staggering. Some might ask, why now? Why release this information after years of secrecy? Timing is everything. In the world of power and perception, information is currency. A carefully timed revelation can alter narratives, shift alliances, and reignite controversies that were thought buried. And for Meghan Markle, whose public image has been meticulously curated over years, the emergence of this footage, real or alleged, represents a shockwave. The stakes are not just personal. They are institutional, social, and even political. Let's step back for a moment and imagine the scene in Cannes through the eyes of an intelligence operative. It's not a glamorous view. It's meticulous, observing patterns, noting body language, assessing influence. Every handshake, every glance, every conversation becomes a data point. And when a figure like Meghan Markle interacts with someone like Harvey Weinstein, whose own history of manipulation and scandal is infamous, the event becomes a potential intelligence goldmine. The question then becomes, what did MI6 see that night? And more importantly, what did they choose to record, preserve, and, years later, release? And here's where the story twists further. Meghan Markle's trajectory from Hollywood actress to Duchess of Sussex is legendary in its own right. But imagine if a single night, a single interaction, could retroactively cast shadows on that trajectory. Imagine the public and the royals grappling with the notion that there were hidden layers, unseen influences, and clandestine encounters shaping decisions and relationships long before anyone imagined. It challenges everything the public has believed about her rise, her intentions, and the carefully managed image of modern royalty. As we dive deeper into this story, you will hear alleged accounts, witness testimonies, and intelligence insights that paint a picture far more complex and far more explosive than simple celebrity gossip. You will be asked to question timelines, motivations, and the hidden machinery behind fame. You will confront uncomfortable questions. Could ambition blur the lines of morality? Could secrecy be leveraged for power? And could an entire network of influence operate undetected until the right moment, when the world is watching and the consequences are irreversible? The revelations in this story are not just about Meghan Markle and Harvey Weinstein. They are about power, control, and the delicate dance between public persona and private reality. And just when you think you understand what happened on that night in Cannes, there is another layer waiting to emerge: connections, motives, and consequences that not even MI6 could have predicted. So, what exactly was captured? Who benefited? Who stood to lose everything? And how did this night eventually ripple into the royal family, the media, and the global public consciousness? These are the questions we will unravel, piece by piece, moment by moment. Because the footage, the files, and the hidden accounts tell a story that is far more than scandal. It is a revelation that challenges what we think we know about influence, ambition, and the calculated paths of those who navigate the corridors of power. And the most chilling part? The full impact is yet to be seen. What came next, after Cannes, after the footage was secured, and after the royals began their quiet awareness of these hidden interactions, would set a chain of events into motion that no one could have anticipated. A chain that would stretch across continents, from Hollywood to Buckingham Palace, from private parties to public headlines, and ultimately, into the global discourse about power, fame, and secrecy. But what came next would change everything, and no one saw it coming. What really happened that night in Cannes? Was it just another celebrity event, or was it the kind of evening that could rewrite histories? Imagine the Mediterranean air thick with perfume and salt, the golden lights reflecting off yachts bobbing gently in the harbor. The red carpet stretched endlessly, each step measured, each smile curated. Cameras flashed relentlessly, capturing glamour for the world to admire. And yet, behind the flashes, away from public view, something else was unfolding, a series of interactions that few could have imagined would later become the focus of MI6 scrutiny. It started in the early evening. Celebrities arrived in glittering cars, stepping onto the carpet with practiced ease. Journalists murmured behind barricades, eager for a glimpse of fame. But beyond the barricades, past the velvet ropes, inside one of Cannes' most exclusive villas, an entirely different narrative was taking shape. The villa itself was an architectural marvel, perched on a cliffside overlooking the sparkling sea. Security was tight, but invisible. Hidden cameras, small, unobtrusive, almost imperceptible, were positioned throughout, capturing moments most guests would never notice. And it was here that Meghan Markle allegedly encountered Harvey Weinstein. The atmosphere was deceptively light. Champagne flowed freely. Laughter bounced off high ceilings. Hollywood's power players mingled casually, but underneath the glamour, every word, every gesture carried weight. In such circles, influence is currency, and ambition is measured not just in roles or awards, but in who you know and how far you can bend the world in your favor. Meghan entered the villa with poise, her smile polished, her demeanor calm, yet her presence was magnetic. Eyes followed her, curious, admiring, calculating. Weinstein, already notorious in Hollywood circles, reportedly took note. Was it admiration, calculation, or something darker? We may never know the full truth, but what MI6 allegedly captured paints a picture that is impossible to ignore. Sources claim that the initial interaction was subtle, whispers exchanged over glasses of champagne, polite laughter masking underlying intent. In the world of high-stakes social maneuvering, a glance can speak louder than a conversation. According to insiders, there was a moment when Meghan leaned in slightly, responding to a joke, her hand grazing Weinstein's ever so briefly. To an observer, it might have seemed trivial, a social nicety, a polite acknowledgement, but to intelligence analysts monitoring covertly, every gesture was data. Every interaction was evidence of influence networks, relationships, and potential leverage points. Now, consider the stakes. Meghan's career was in a critical phase. She had achieved some recognition on television, but her name had not yet reached the global consciousness it would in the coming years. Hollywood is a city of ladders, and climbing them requires more than talent. It requires strategy, timing, and access. Could this night, captured quietly by hidden cameras, have been a turning point? Could the interactions, subtle as they seemed, have shaped decisions and opportunities that would eventually catapult Meghan into the spotlight, and ultimately, into the royal family? The villa's rooms offered perfect observation points. The main lounge, decorated in lavish gold and cream, held clusters of influential guests. Private corners and balconies allowed discreet conversations, far from the watchful eyes of other attendees. Witnesses, who later spoke under anonymity, described the air as charged, electric, tense, almost conspiratorial. Every laugh was measured. Every compliment could be double-edged. And at the center of it all was Meghan, navigating this world with poise and, some say, an acute awareness of the stakes. But the night was far from simple. Sources allege that Weinstein was intent on recruiting or influencing, wielding his infamous power in ways both overt and subtle. He was surrounded by a small circle of loyal associates, watching interactions like hawks, noting who could be leveraged for future gain. Observers later described a pattern. Meghan's responses were careful, her body language controlled, yet responsive enough to maintain rapport. It was a delicate dance, one that could determine access, opportunities, and alliances in Hollywood's complex hierarchy. Then there were the whispers. Rumors circulating within the villa that only a few noticed at the time. Some guests reportedly mentioned Meghan's ambition, her rising profile, and her potential beyond television. Others discussed Weinstein's influence, his ability to make or break careers with a word or a gesture. Few realized that this combination, in a single room, at a single event, would later become a focus of intense scrutiny by MI6. And those whispers, captured indirectly by hidden observation and corroborated by multiple insiders, suggest that this night was more than social. It was strategic, calculated, and consequential. What makes this even more intriguing is the contrast between public perception and private reality. For the cameras outside, it was a glamorous event, a red carpet spectacle filled with smiling faces and designer gowns. For the cameras inside, hidden and silent, it was a microcosm of ambition and influence. The dichotomy is striking. Publicly, Meghan was charming, approachable, poised. Privately, every move, every glance, every interaction was a potential variable in a high-stakes game, observed by individuals whose job was to see beyond the surface. Sources suggest that Meghan was aware of the power dynamics at play. She reportedly navigated conversations with subtlety, using charm strategically, demonstrating intelligence, wit, and social acumen. But Weinstein, known for his manipulative tendencies, reportedly pursued influence aggressively, pressing conversations into private spaces, testing boundaries, observing reactions. To an outsider, this may have seemed innocuous or standard in Hollywood circles, but to MI6, it was a moment worth documenting, cataloging, and analyzing for patterns of behavior and potential leverage. There is also the element of timing. This night allegedly occurred months before Meghan's engagement to Prince Harry. At the time, she was still primarily a Hollywood actress, with no official ties to royalty. Yet, intelligence analysts reportedly began noting potential future implications. Relationships, ambitions, and social positioning could intersect with international interest, including the British Crown. It is a level of foresight that seems almost prophetic in hindsight. Was it coincidence? Or was it an outcome influenced by these hidden interactions? And then there's the human element, the tension, the nervous energy, the subtle smiles that may have masked anxiety or calculation. Guests who were later interviewed describe a night that felt electric, charged with anticipation and the unspoken knowledge that power was being brokered quietly. Could Meghan have sensed the magnitude of this event in real time? Or was she playing a role she had perfected for public appearances, oblivious to the fact that intelligence agencies were quietly taking note? As the night drew on, the energy reportedly shifted. Conversations deepened, small groups formed, and gestures became more pointed. Some insiders claimed there was a brief moment when Meghan and Weinstein stepped aside from the main crowd, their exchange lasting longer than casual social norms would suggest. Observers, some of whom were staff and others reportedly connected to intelligence operations, noted body language that indicated tension, negotiation, and subtle influence. To the public eye, it was a moment that went unnoticed, invisible. But to those who were documenting it, it was significant. By the end of the evening, guests left with the usual afterglow of celebrity parties, photographs, champagne memories, and whispered promises of future collaborations. But hidden in the archives of surveillance, in encrypted files, and in intelligence briefings, this night would live on in a different way. Every movement, every glance, every word captured by hidden lenses, compiled into a dossier, analyzed by experts. And according to sources, it wasn't just about social maneuvering. It was about patterns of influence, opportunity, and potential leverage that could ripple through Meghan's future long before she became Duchess of Sussex. And yet, despite all the observation, there was a sense that the full story had not yet revealed itself. The night was over, but the implications were only beginning to unfold. The interactions captured, the subtle exchanges, and the strategic positioning of key players were laying the groundwork for a narrative that would later be explosive, controversial, and utterly transformational. But what came next, the moment that would turn a seemingly private evening into a dossier of international intrigue, would change everything. And no one outside those hidden cameras could have anticipated the consequences, the whispers, and the eventual revelations that would shake both Hollywood and the royal family to their cores. The secret night was over, but the story it began was only just waking up. Why would MI6 care about a Hollywood actress at a glamorous festival? On the surface, it seems absurd. An intelligence agency, tasked with protecting national security, turning its gaze toward glitzy villas in Cannes, where champagne flows and movie stars laugh. Yet sources claim that for Meghan Markle, this wasn't just a night of socializing. To the world, she was a rising actress. To MI6, she was a nexus of influence, a person whose social connections, ambitions, and proximity to power made her a subject worthy of scrutiny. It begins with context. MI6's job is not just espionage overseas or tracking threats to national security. It's anticipating potential vulnerabilities that could be exploited against the Crown, the government, or key figures tied to British interests. When Meghan, a dual national actress with increasing fame, started moving within elite circles, including those connected to international business, Hollywood power brokers, and global influencers, intelligence eyes reportedly started paying attention. At first, the interest was casual. Observers monitored publicly available events, interviews, and networking patterns. But Kim was different. Kim was private. Exclusive. A place where power players could maneuver freely, away from the press, away from the world. Why can't? Why that villa? Intelligence sources suggest that elite gatherings in neutral, glamorous locations often serve as informal summits. Deals are discussed, favors are brokered, and alliances quietly shift. Any figure operating in that space, especially someone like Meghan, whose trajectory was accelerating, could represent both opportunity and risk. The MI6 directive, according to insiders, was not about scandal. It was about understanding influence, mapping connections, and identifying any potential vulnerabilities that could impact the monarchy in the years to come. The operation was reportedly meticulous. Agents weren't dressed in trench coats or waving binoculars conspicuously. They blended seamlessly with the crowd, embedded as staff, security, or independent observers. Tiny, unnoticeable cameras were placed strategically throughout the villa, above doorways, in corners, and even in the backs of chandeliers. Every interaction was logged, time-stamped, and reviewed for patterns. Every glance and gesture became a piece of intelligence. Every conversation overheard was cataloged, encrypted, and archived. Some might ask, why involve an intelligence agency at all? Why not leave it to journalists or paparazzi? The answer lies in risk assessment. Hollywood isn't just about fame and entertainment. It's a network of influence with far-reaching consequences. Weinstein, for example, wielded enormous power. A single endorsement, a strategic conversation, could change the course of careers and, by extension, social access. From an intelligence standpoint, monitoring these interactions was a way to anticipate the ripple effects, who could gain influence, who could manipulate narratives, and who might pose future challenges to individuals with ties to the crown. It's important to note the subtlety of these operations. MI6 doesn't operate like a Hollywood thriller with car chases and dramatic confrontations. Intelligence is quiet, precise, and calculated. Agents observe, analyze, and report. They build profiles. They trace relationships. They map networks. And in doing so, they uncover information that may never be seen by the public, but that holds enormous value when considering influence, ambition, and potential leverage. The network surrounding Meghan reportedly included more than Weinstein. Industry executives, agents, filmmakers, and socialites populated the villa. Each conversation mattered. Who spoke to whom, for how long, and in what context? Every movement was a variable in a larger intelligence equation. Agents recorded not only words but tone, body language, micro-expressions. How did Meghan respond under pressure? When flattered, did she deflect or engage? When tested, did she retreat or assert herself? Every nuance was logged as part of a growing dossier. A dossier that would eventually attract even greater attention once her relationship with Prince Harry became public. There were also whispers about the motivations behind MI6's interest. Some insiders claim that the agency wasn't only monitoring Meghan as an individual, but as part of a broader effort to track potential influences around the royal family. In intelligence circles, proximity to power matters immensely. An actress who could enter royal circles, through marriage, social connections, or public influence, suddenly becomes a person of interest. This is not about moral judgment. It's about identifying vectors that could affect security, reputation, or institutional stability. To carry out this level of surveillance, MI6 reportedly used a combination of human intelligence and technical monitoring. Staff embedded in the villa observed and reported behavior. Hidden cameras captured angles no one would notice. Analysts cross-referenced these observations with publicly available information and insider reports. The result was a layered, detailed profile of interactions that, in retrospect, appears chillingly precise. Every smile, every handshake, every whispered comment contributed to an intelligence mosaic designed to anticipate influence patterns. But there's more. Some sources suggest that MI6's involvement was also precautionary. Meghan's Hollywood connections, particularly with someone like Weinstein, were considered potentially volatile. At the time, Weinstein's behavior in private circles was notorious, though not yet publicly documented to the scale it would later be. Intelligence analysts reportedly considered the potential for reputational, legal, or even political risks emerging from these interactions. It wasn't about judging her. It was about anticipating outcomes and ensuring that potential threats to the crown or the monarchy's image could be preemptively assessed. Here's the shocking twist. The agents weren't just watching passively. The footage allegedly captured interactions that suggested negotiations, influence attempts, and subtle power plays. Meghan's responses, some casual, some strategic, were analyzed for patterns of persuasion, adaptability, and social intelligence. To most, it looked like a typical evening. Laughter, small talk, polite nods. To intelligence analysts, it was a data-rich environment. Every gesture could be coded, every sentence parsed for intent, every interaction a potential insight into a person whose life was about to intersect with the highest echelons of British society. And yet, despite all this observation, the narrative remained invisible to the world. Outside the villa, the red carpet cameras continued their usual coverage: flashes, smiles, gowns, interviews. No journalist reported the subtle exchanges that were being meticulously documented. No paparazzo captured the nuances. Only MI6 had the complete picture. And while the footage remained classified, the potential for release, or leak, has always existed. Intelligence agencies are careful, but history shows that sensitive files can, at times, find their way into public discourse, intentionally or otherwise. This is where the story becomes even more intriguing. The surveillance wasn't just about capturing scandalous behavior. It was about mapping influence. It was about creating a record of strategic social positioning, of relationships that might later intersect with power structures far beyond Hollywood. And while Meghan's life moved forward, her acting career, her public persona, and ultimately her marriage to Prince Harry, the files allegedly remained under wraps, quietly documenting the hidden moments that no one would otherwise see. So what did MI6 actually capture? Who was watching and why? And how would these recordings, stored in secure files, eventually shape the narrative of one of the most talked about figures in the modern royal family? These are questions that remain partially answered, partially obscured by secrecy. But as the story unfolds, the picture grows clearer. This wasn't just a glamorous evening. It was a night that connected ambition, influence, and power in ways that few could have anticipated. And yet, even with all this surveillance, there was an element of unpredictability. Human behavior is never fully controllable. Meghan's decisions, her responses, her ability to navigate complex social dynamics, all introduced variables that intelligence analysts could observe but not fully dictate. And these variables, recorded in painstaking detail, would later intersect with forces and outcomes that no one could foresee. But what came next? The analysis, the encryption, the eventual decision to store or release these files, would set in motion a chain of events that would shock not only Hollywood, but also the royal family. A chain that transformed a seemingly ordinary night in Cannes into the kind of revelation capable of rewriting reputations and history itself. The involvement of MI6 was just the beginning. What they recorded, what they chose to retain, and what remained hidden would soon collide with public perception, royal intrigue, and the most powerful social networks in the world. And when those layers began to unfold, the consequences would ripple far beyond the villa, far beyond the festival, and far beyond anyone's initial imagination. The story of MI6's surveillance of Meghan Markle and Ken was only beginning, and what came next would push the boundaries of scandal, strategy, and secrecy in ways no one outside those walls could have predicted. What if a single piece of footage could upend everything you thought you knew? A video so carefully monitored, so meticulously documented, that it captures more than just an evening. It captures influence, ambition, and opportunity colliding in real time. This is what MI6 allegedly secured that night in Cannes, a night when Meghan Markle's public charm may have concealed intentions, reactions, and interactions that were never meant to be seen beyond those villa walls. The video begins innocuously, almost mundane. Meghan arrives at the villa, her entrance poised, elegant, deliberate. Cameras catch her every movement: sweeping gowns, subtle gestures, confident strides. She greets guests with polished charm, exchanging smiles and handshakes, creating an image of casual social grace. But the hidden cameras, positioned with precision, record far more than the surface appearance. They capture timing, eye movement, subtle shifts in posture, the micro-gestures that reveal attention, calculation, and awareness. Intelligence experts call this behavioral mapping, observing how someone navigates complex social interactions, especially in high-stakes environments. And then comes the interaction everyone has speculated about: Harvey Weinstein. He is at the center of a small cluster, commanding attention with ease, his presence magnetic and intimidating. The footage allegedly shows him approaching Meghan, polite but deliberate, initiating conversation that appears casual yet carries subtle influence. Every word, every glance, is observed and recorded. Meghan responds with measured grace, laughs, nods, hand gestures. On the surface, a simple social exchange. But hidden layers suggest observation and adaptation. Behavior that intelligence analysts would later dissect for patterns, strategy, and intent. What makes this footage extraordinary isn't just who is in the frame. It's how the interactions unfold. There are moments when Meghan is pulled slightly aside, a private conversation in a corner, away from the larger crowd. Body language suggests attentiveness, quick assessment of risk, and perhaps even negotiation. Are these conversations innocent, professional, strategic, or manipulative? That remains the question. What is clear, according to sources, is that the way Meghan engages with Weinstein is markedly different from casual social interaction. It reflects awareness of stakes, relationships, and the potential impact of her words and actions. The video also captures subtleties most would miss. A fleeting glance between Meghan and another guest, a subtle nod, a quick exchange of private information. Hidden camera footage records these moments with precision, allowing analysts to reconstruct entire social dynamics. Who influences whom? Who responds to flattery? Who deflects pressure? How does Meghan navigate these networks of power, particularly with someone like Weinstein, whose reputation for leverage is infamous? Observers later claimed that the video shows Meghan negotiating subtle social positioning, ensuring her presence is noticed without overstepping, balancing charm with calculation. One of the most revealing aspects of the footage, according to insiders, is timing. Meghan appears to consciously pace her interactions. She laughs when appropriate, responds to inquiries with intelligence, and selectively engages with influential figures. To the casual observer, it seems natural. To MI6, it is a careful orchestration of social capital. They reportedly noted patterns, moments when she deliberately avoids certain conversations, moments where her reactions indicate awareness of hidden stakes, even moments where she subtly asserts control of dialogue. Every second in this recording is a data point in a larger behavioral profile. And yet, despite all the observation, the footage is not merely analytical, it's emotional. Watching the interactions, you can sense tension, excitement, and perhaps apprehension. Social maneuvering is high stakes, particularly when power and opportunity intersect in closed, elite environments. Observers note that Meghan's demeanor suggests both self-confidence and strategic calculation. The video allegedly captures laughter that is genuine, smiles that are calculated, moments of pause that indicate thoughtfulness, and gestures that signal attentiveness to power dynamics. It is, in effect, a masterclass in perception and influence, but viewed through the lens of an intelligence dossier rather than a public performance. Perhaps most startling, the footage reportedly captures a fleeting but significant moment between Meghan and Weinstein that suggests negotiation beyond casual conversation. A tilt of the head, a whispered exchange, a shift in body orientation, all subtle, almost imperceptible. Sources claim that MI6 analysts flagged these interactions as critical, suggesting that Meghan was aware of the stakes and carefully positioning herself for influence, opportunities, or leverage. To the public, it may look like a polite exchange at a party. To intelligence observers, it is a window into decision-making, strategy, and social navigation under pressure. The video also shows Meghan moving strategically through the villa. She circulates among guests, subtly directing attention, balancing charm and discretion. Observers note her interactions with other influential figures, agents, producers, socialites. Each conversation brief, controlled, and calculated. The footage captures these dynamics with remarkable clarity. Eye contact, gesture, vocal inflection, posture. Every micromovement becomes a piece of the puzzle, allowing analysts to reconstruct not just conversations, but social strategy, intent, and influence. And then there are the moments of apparent contradiction. Meghan appears relaxed and approachable, yet simultaneously observant and guarded. She laughs, gestures, and engages, but her eyes scan the room, noting subtleties others might miss. The video, according to insiders, captures this duality with precision, an actress presenting herself for public charm while subtly navigating a network of power and influence behind the scenes. It is this tension, the push and pull between perception and reality, that makes the footage so compelling and potentially explosive. What is also significant is context. This footage occurred months before Meghan's engagement to Prince Harry. At the time, she was still establishing herself as a public figure, gaining prominence in Hollywood, and cultivating relationships that would later prove consequential. MI6 reportedly recognized that her trajectory intersected with both social and institutional power structures. The recording becomes more than documentation of a party. It becomes evidence of how ambition, strategy, and social navigation converge in ways that could shape the course of a person's life and, by extension, influence larger institutions. Some have asked, is this evidence of wrongdoing, manipulation, or scandal? That is subjective. What is clear, however, is that the video provides an unprecedented view into the private social mechanics of a rising public figure. The combination of charm, awareness, timing, and adaptability suggests a level of strategic intelligence that few would expect to see captured on hidden cameras at a party. Analysts reportedly examined every second, every frame, in search of patterns and implications that could inform assessments of character, ambition, and potential influence over others. And yet, even with such detailed observation, the full implications were unclear at the time. The interactions recorded were subtle, almost imperceptible to casual viewers. The intelligence value lay not in sensationalism but in pattern recognition, in understanding how Meghan navigated a high-stakes social environment where influence was everything. The video allegedly showed not just social interactions but strategic positioning, an instinctive understanding of power, opportunity, and timing that would later intersect with the most powerful family in the world. But what the footage truly reveals, the details, the nuances, the unspoken negotiations, remains partially obscured. MI6 kept much of it confidential, locked away for reasons of national interest, personal privacy, and potential leverage. Yet leaks, according to insiders, have made fragments accessible, revealing moments that, when pieced together, suggest a night far more consequential than the public ever imagined. Moments that foreshadowed connections, decisions, and opportunities that would define Meghan Markle's future in ways the cameras outside never captured. And as the night in the video concludes, Meghan leaves the villa with the same elegance and poise with which she arrived. Guests continue their conversations, unaware that every subtle movement has been catalogued, every whispered exchange analyzed, every gesture noted for influence. The evening ends in public perception as another glamorous celebrity gathering. But in the hidden world of intelligence files and encrypted cameras, it is the beginning of a story with ramifications that would echo through Hollywood, the royal family, and international networks of power. The video exists as a testament not just to a night in Cannes, but to the complexity of ambition, strategy, and influence. And while most of the world will never see the full footage, the fragments that emerge hint at a narrative so intricate, so calculated, and so consequential that the next revelations, those yet to come, promise to shock even those who believe they understand Meghan Markle's story. But what came next, the reactions, the implications, and the ripple effects of this footage, would take the intrigue from a single evening in Cannes to a saga that involved intelligence agencies, Hollywood power brokers, and eventually, the royal family itself. And no one outside that villa could have predicted the fallout. Hollywood is not what it seems. Glittering premieres, flashing cameras, red carpets stretching endlessly under the lights of fame. It all conceals an undercurrent of influence, manipulation, and ambition. For most, the stories are about glamour and success. But behind closed doors, in private villas, secluded suites, and exclusive parties, the dynamics are darker, calculated, and far-reaching. The night in Cannes that MI6 allegedly documented was one such moment, a microcosm of the power circles that control access, opportunities, and trajectories in Hollywood. From the outside, Meghan Markle's interactions seemed innocuous: polite handshakes, laughter, the occasional toast. Yet Hollywood insiders reportedly describe an entirely different reality. Every conversation, every glance, every casual nod could carry weight. Influence in these circles is currency. Who you know can determine the roles you get, the awards you're considered for, and the trajectory of your career. And at Cannes, amid the champagne flutes and designer gowns, Meghan found herself navigating a labyrinth of power brokers whose interests intersected with hers in ways few could anticipate. At the center of this network was Harvey Weinstein. His reputation, even then, was notorious, though not fully exposed to the public. Weinstein wielded influence with a combination of charm, intimidation, and leverage. To some, he was a mentor. To others, a gatekeeper, a figure whose endorsement could accelerate careers or close doors permanently. MI6 sources claim that the agency's interest in Meghan wasn't simply about her presence at the festival. It was about her interactions with someone who represented a node of extraordinary influence. The intelligence analysts reportedly scrutinized every exchange between Meghan and Weinstein, noting subtle cues, shifts in attention, and moments of negotiation. These weren't casual conversations. They were microcosms of power in motion. But Weinstein was only one player in a broader web. Other producers, directors, agents, and socialites attended the villa, each representing potential influence, opportunity, or risk. Every gathering in Hollywood carries the potential for alliances, betrayals, and reputational leverage. Insiders who spoke to intelligence sources claimed that Cannes was a strategic environment, a place where careers could pivot in a single night, based on charm, networking, and the ability to navigate subtle power dynamics. Meghan's presence, sources say, placed her in the crosshairs of a system that rewarded awareness, adaptability, and ambition. One surprising element of the footage MI6 allegedly captured is the degree to which Meghan appears aware of the stakes. Observers reportedly note her ability to read room dynamics, balance charm with calculation, and respond to subtle pressures. For example, when approached by multiple influential figures simultaneously, she allegedly prioritized interactions based on perceived opportunity and risk. It is the kind of social intelligence rarely seen so overtly, and one that analysts claim played a role in her trajectory from Hollywood to the royal family. The footage also reportedly captured moments that highlight contradictions in the public perception of Hollywood glamour versus private reality. Guests appear relaxed, laughing, mingling casually. But beneath the surface, observers, particularly MI6 analysts, note subtle signals of competition, tension, and even intimidation. Meghan's engagement with Weinstein, for example, allegedly displays a careful balance between deference and assertiveness, a navigation of influence that demonstrates both awareness and strategy. In other words, the public image of casual social grace masks a more complex, high-stakes interplay of power and positioning. It's also significant that these circles operate on dual layers, one public, one private. Publicly, the media covers glamorous entrances, interviews, and photo opportunities. Privately, decisions, discussions, and negotiations occur away from the lenses. Intelligence experts reportedly emphasize that observing these private layers is critical to understanding influence patterns. What Meghan said, how she responded, and the subtleties of her behavior in private interactions provided analysts with a blueprint of social dynamics, leverage points, and potential vulnerabilities. Perhaps the most astonishing aspect of the footage, according to insiders, is the level of subtlety in Meghan's navigation. She reportedly maintained a poised demeanor, smiled strategically, and engaged selectively. Laughter and gestures were not merely social, they were tools of influence. Analysts reportedly note moments when she subtly asserted control over conversations, guided attention, or responded to pressure without appearing overtly ambitious. This behavior, seemingly effortless, is exactly the kind of intelligence that MI6 would catalog, analyze, and store. And yet, Hollywood is not without its scandals. The very power structures that enable ambition are often fraught with manipulation and coercion. Sources claim that during the festival, discussions involving opportunities, endorsements, and access intersected with private negotiations and leverage attempts. The footage allegedly captures these interactions, not as overt scandal, but as evidence of the networks through which influence operates. What seems innocuous on the red carpet may hide undercurrents of calculated strategy, ambition, and even exploitation. Contradictions emerge in the footage as well. Meghan, poised and graceful, moves through spaces where others are assertive, domineering, or manipulative. Observers reportedly note her ability to navigate conflicting signals, balancing charm with deference, engagement with caution, and opportunity with discretion. Every micro-expression, subtle gesture, and moment of attention becomes data, illustrating not only the complexity of social interactions, but also the pressures inherent in navigating Hollywood power circles. Consider the stakes. For a rising actress, one night, one interaction, could influence not just the next role but the trajectory of a career. For someone moving closer to global influence, these stakes are magnified exponentially. Intelligence agencies like MI6, tasked with protecting national interests and the reputation of the crown, reportedly observed the night with this in mind. They cataloged patterns, assessed risks, and considered the potential for these interactions to intersect with larger, long-term consequences. It is also worth noting the emotional elements in the footage. Meghan reportedly appears confident but aware of subtle pressures. Her engagement with Weinstein and other influential figures allegedly demonstrates strategic charm, careful listening, and nuanced negotiation. There are micro-moments, hesitations, subtle nods, quick assessments, that indicate she is not merely participating socially, but actively managing influence and perception. For intelligence analysts, these moments are as important as words, if not more so. The night also reportedly includes moments of tension and contrast. Some guests displayed overt dominance, others subtle manipulation, and some sought to assert influence quietly. Meghan's interactions appear calibrated to navigate these varying dynamics, suggesting both social intelligence and awareness of stakes. Observers claim that she balanced attention, charm, and discretion, maneuvering effectively through the network of Hollywood power. It is a display of skill and awareness that few casual observers could appreciate in real time. And yet, even in this controlled navigation, unpredictability exists. Human behavior is inherently variable. Meghan's ability to respond, adapt, and assert subtly in high-pressure social environments is what allegedly makes the footage so compelling. Intelligence analysts reportedly cross-referenced her movements, gestures, and speech patterns to identify strategies and potential vulnerabilities. Every detail captured contributes to a larger understanding of influence dynamics in environments where opportunity and power intersect. The footage also reportedly hints at broader implications. The interactions, while socially navigable, intersect with power structures that extend beyond Hollywood. MI6 reportedly noted that someone in Meghan's position, rising actress, dual national, increasing influence, could, in the future, intersect with institutions like the monarchy, where social intelligence, discretion, and awareness are not just assets but requirements. Observing her behavior at Cannes, therefore, was not about gossip. It was about assessing long-term potential, influence, and risk. And then there's the emotional tension that threads throughout the footage. Subtle cues of nervousness, confidence, charm, and calculation create an intricate tapestry that tells a story far beyond the visible interactions. Analysts reportedly viewed this footage repeatedly, frame by frame, reconstructing the social dynamics and potential leverage points. It is a rare window into the intersection of ambition, charm, and influence, captured with precision and analyzed for implications far beyond a single night. But what came next? The hidden conversations, the intelligence reports, and the decisions made based on this footage would bring the story from Hollywood power circles to the very heart of the royal family. A night that seemed glamorous and harmless would later ripple through institutions, careers, and public perception, revealing layers of influence, ambition, and secrecy no one outside the villa could have imagined. The video exists not just as documentation, but as a record of the hidden dynamics of power, influence, and strategy. And while most of the world may never see it in full, the fragments, when pieced together, hint at a narrative that is explosive, controversial, and inextricably tied to the trajectory of Meghan Markle's life, career, and eventual entry into the highest echelons of royalty. The Hollywood night in Cannes may have ended with a toast and laughter, but the implications of what was captured, analyzed, and stored would stretch far beyond the villa walls. And when the world finally began to connect these fragments, the impact would be felt in ways that few could have predicted. What came next, the fallout from these interactions and the hidden maneuvers behind the scenes, would push the story from social maneuvering to scandal, intrigue, and power plays on a global scale. And no one outside those hidden cameras could have foreseen the storm that was about to break. When whispers reach the corridors of power, they rarely stay whispers for long. The royal family, accustomed to secrecy, image management, and strategic silence, reportedly learned of Meghan Markle's night through channels far removed from Hollywood tabloids. MI6's surveillance, initially intended to map influence and social dynamics, allegedly revealed interactions that, once flagged internally, became a topic of quiet concern among palace insiders. The stakes were not just personal, they were institutional. This was a matter of perception, reputation, and the delicate balance between public adoration and private scrutiny. Imagine the scene inside the palace. Advisors gathered quietly in wood-paneled rooms, documents passed discreetly, secure lines buzzing with intelligence updates. Discussions were hushed but urgent. How much should the royals know? How would this information, if leaked, affect public perception? Sources claim that the palace monitors celebrity circles carefully, particularly when individuals are connected to or moving toward a union with the royal family. Meghan Markle, rising star turned soon-to-be Duchess, represented a convergence of celebrity influence and royal proximity, a combination that had not gone unnoticed. The initial reaction, insiders say, was measured. The royal family does not respond rashly to rumors. Decisions are calculated, and timing is critical. Analysts reportedly presented summaries of the MI6 findings. Footage captured subtle but significant interactions, strategic social maneuvers, and connections with individuals whose influence could carry unforeseen consequences. Advisors debated the potential implications. Was this merely social navigation, or could it signal patterns of behavior that warranted closer observation? Questions of character, judgment, and influence began circulating quietly, far from the public eye. Some sources suggest that Prince Harry, at the time still navigating his own public role and private responsibilities, may have been briefed cautiously. The palace reportedly faced a dilemma: how to balance respect for Meghan's privacy, the potential for public misinterpretation, and the long-term implications for the family's image. Internal memos, according to leaked accounts, emphasized discretion, framing the information as intelligence rather than scandal, while highlighting the importance of monitoring interactions with key figures in Hollywood and beyond. The emotional stakes were significant. Members of the royal family, while often seen as composed and impervious, reportedly experienced tension when information about potential associates emerges from intelligence channels. The MI6 footage, with its subtle yet telling depictions of strategic engagement, would have been assessed not just for immediate concern, but for its implications over time. Could these interactions affect decisions, influence, or future events? Could patterns observed in social maneuvering translate into public controversies, media narratives, or reputational risks? These questions, reportedly debated in quiet rooms, underscore the intersection of personal, social, and institutional stakes. What is particularly striking, according to insiders, is the dual lens through which the palace viewed the footage. On one hand, Meghan's behavior displayed intelligence, adaptability, and social awareness, qualities generally admired in a person entering royal life. On the other hand, the connections and influence networks represented variables that could have far-reaching consequences. It was not a question of morality, but of potential exposure, strategic vulnerability, and the optics of association. Every handshake, glance, and conversation was analyzed in this context. Sources suggest that palace advisors considered several scenarios. One involved controlling potential narratives. If the footage were ever leaked, how would it be framed by the media? Another involved assessing personal influence. How might these interactions reflect on Meghan's judgment, her ability to navigate complex social networks, and her readiness to handle scrutiny at the highest level? And a third scenario, reportedly considered highly sensitive, involved understanding leverage. Could Hollywood connections, if exploited, create pressure points on the royal family? The depth and foresight of these considerations underscore how seriously intelligence findings were taken. Interestingly, the palace response was reportedly nuanced. Meghan's growing public persona, combined with the calculated discretion evident in the footage, suggested capability and sophistication. Advisors may have interpreted this as evidence of social intelligence and resilience, traits valuable for someone joining the monarchy. Yet the potential for controversy, scandal, or misinterpretation could not be ignored. Sources claim that discussions included evaluating future exposure, considering the timing of her marriage announcement, and developing contingency strategies in case sensitive information surfaced publicly. The interplay between private observation and public perception became a critical factor. The palace reportedly maintained an awareness that intelligence findings do not exist in isolation. They intersect with media narratives, celebrity gossip, and public opinion. Even a subtle, strategically captured moment could, if misrepresented, have outsized effects on reputation and influence. As a result, internal discussions emphasized both caution and foresight, balancing awareness of potential risk with recognition of personal agency and social acumen. Some insiders claim that family reactions varied. Senior members of the royal family, seasoned in navigating public scrutiny, reportedly emphasized discretion and long-term planning. Younger members, like Prince Harry, reportedly faced a more personal response, navigating both affection, loyalty, and the responsibility of integrating a future Duchess into the family. Conversations reportedly revolved around understanding her character, gauging her judgment, and evaluating the subtle power dynamics she displayed, all while maintaining the appearance of courtesy, dignity, and measured restraint. There is also a political dimension. The monarchy operates not only as a family institution, but as a symbol of national stability. Intelligence insights regarding potential influences on someone entering the family carry implications beyond personal matters. MI6's footage, according to sources, was reportedly analyzed for risks associated with public perception, media exploitation, and potential intersections with international figures. The palace reportedly considered questions such as, how might this information affect diplomatic relations, media coverage, and public trust in the monarchy? Every nuance mattered, and the stakes were high. Yet the response was not uniform caution. Some advisors reportedly saw potential opportunity. Meghan's social intelligence, adaptability, and engagement with influential figures suggested someone capable of navigating complex networks. These qualities, if aligned with royal responsibilities, could be assets. The challenge, insiders claim, was to balance recognition of her strengths with awareness of the latent risks identified in the footage. In other words, Meghan's interactions were assessed not only as potential vulnerabilities, but also as indicators of strategic skill. Emotional tension within the palace reportedly intensified as advisors debated timing, messaging, and potential fallout. Would it be better to address concerns privately, through subtle guidance and observation, or to prepare for public exposure if leaks occurred? How would these decisions impact both Meghan and the broader family? Sources suggest that this period marked a quiet, high-stakes balancing act, in which intelligence findings, public relations considerations, and personal relationships intersected in ways that few outside the palace could comprehend. The MI6 footage, though hidden, reportedly became a reference point for internal assessments. Observers noted patterns: Meghan's attentiveness, her adaptability, and her ability to navigate subtle pressure. But equally, analysts reportedly observed interactions with figures whose influence could carry risk, evaluating how these relationships might intersect with future royal responsibilities. In essence, the palace was examining both potential opportunities and vulnerabilities, weighing character, judgment, and social skill against the backdrop of reputation and influence. And yet, despite careful deliberation, uncertainty remained. The palace could assess, anticipate, and prepare, but human behavior is unpredictable. Meghan's ambitions, judgments, and choices would continue to shape outcomes in ways analysts could not fully foresee. The intelligence, while informative, was not prescriptive. It provided insight, but the ultimate trajectory depended on actions taken both within Hollywood and, later, within royal circles. But what came next? The convergence of Hollywood influence, MI6 surveillance, and Meghan's rising prominence within the royal family would bring these quiet assessments into public scrutiny. The palace's internal caution and anticipation would collide with media narratives, leaks, and eventual revelations, setting the stage for controversy, debate, and a cascade of consequences that no one outside those walls could have predicted. The royal family's awareness marked a turning point. The quiet notes, encrypted files, and intelligence briefings signaled that a single night in Ken was not just a fleeting